Let's go.
Welcome to the Jira Life, the place to find news, events, and interviews with the Atlassian Community's movers and shakers. Join our hosts, Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira guy Nissen, as well as the Jira amigos in the peanut gallery, as we sit down and discuss the latest going on in the Atlassian ecosystem. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life chose us.
We got Big Chris in the room today.
Wait, I was just dancing to your tune.
I was too.
Isn't it the best? Ronnie finds like the most great music and then gets his copyright strikes.
Nice. Well, thanks for having us, guys. It's a real pleasure to be here. I've been a long-standing fan. I was worried you guys would get very technical about Jira, but I've seen a couple of episodes and that doesn't seem to be...
Oh, no. The rest of it, we are going to have you create a workflow in Jira today.
Yes. Chris, you're also invited to a Jira duty.
My first question is, how does one sign into Jira?
At least we're not calling it Jira, so I think we're all in a good... We're trending in the right direction.
I don't judge anyone these days. If it makes people happy calling it Jira, go ahead. Jira away.
It's Jira. We'll forever be Jira. I do want to share my very first story of me meeting Chris. So I'm at Team 23, and I am looking upon the audience of, that is, everybody waiting to get into the expo hall. And I see Fun Man Andy, and Andy is tall. And then I was like, where's Chris? And he was like, well, look up somewhere, you'll find Chris. And so at no point during the entire conference, inside the expo with the thousands of people, was I ever not able to find Chris.
If you ever get lost at an Atlassian event, I am the meeting point. Just be like, we'll meet at Big Chris.
We didn't meet at Big Chris.
Love that.
Chris,
I just saw a cute video where somebody had a headband on with an arrow pointing down, so you could always find that person. And I was thinking about something like that myself. Like, where am I? Just need that arrow on my head. But
Nice.
then you guys put like, I don't know. Never mind. Back to you, Alex. How about what you might write on that arrow?
I don't know if lost found here.
I remember everyone used to wear, when going skiing, they used to wear crazy hats, but now everyone gets crazy hats, so you have to just dress really boring.
Really?
So how do you stand out, Mr. Marketing? There you go. How's that for a segue?
Being 6'7" helped me. That's my advice. Follow me for more marketing tips.
Just be taller.
If you want to ask this, I'll just hire someone really tall. Stand up with a big sign.
Well, you say that. I've started working for Collabsoft, and they make me feel normal. They're all Dutch gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
They're all 6'7" something. It's ridiculous. Like, yeah.
How is that? So a few weeks ago, you posted, "I'm looking for another venture." What was that transition? What was that decision? What came upon about from that?
I don't know. I guess I know how pretty girls feel on Tinder. When I get on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," my DMs are just.
I should be one.
So you just have to filter through and kiss some frogs. It's been a hell of a transition going from running a fastly growing company to selling it, and just trying to find my next forever.
Well, I mean, let's start at the beginning, from being a fisherman to running a company.
Scuba diving instructor.
Whatever. You're in the water.
It's like gamekeeper and hunter. I was saving turtles. I wasn't hunting them. So. Like hand waving, whatever. It was water stuff. Like I was doing
something with the boat and water. That's all that mattered.
Sure. something under the water.
There we go. From a scuba diver instructor to running of your own company.
Well, it's like, I got to remember, I graduated in 2008, just as the financial crisis was smashing. And so there were no real jobs. And so, I'd been a scuba diving instructor for fun since I was 18, 19. So I was like, I'll just go to Thailand and do that till this all blows over. And then, yeah, just became quite successful doing that, merging with ecotourism, doing VIP diving courses for the sort of international families there in Bangkok. But yeah, I met some 40-year-old scuba diving instructors and was like, I don't want to be that guy. And I was reading all about software and so I kind of always knew I wanted to get into software, but there's not many opportunities for a foreigner without a proper working visa in Bangkok, Thailand. So yeah, eventually my now wife said, you need to go back to England, which was rare because everyone in Thailand was like, oh, never leave. This is the best place ever. But she said, yeah, if you were working this hard in Europe, you wouldn't be this broke. Was advice to me, and she was absolutely right. Oh no, I float very well these days. Comments.
I think they're addressing it towards me. They're making fun of me for not.
I'm sure we would all float. Lovely. So
he doesn't weigh more than a duck. It's cool. Anyway, some people will get that.
I'm a witch. So my almost first job in tech was in the Atlassian ecosystem. Just got very lucky. My sister's friend was working for Clear Vision, now part of FE Code. And so through that, I got a job. I mean, a half truth on my CV maybe got me to my foot in the door for the interview stage. And then I asked, like, yeah, I heard I'm replacing a guy that got fired. You know, it didn't work out with him. Why not? And they were like, oh, he lied on his CV. And I was like, oh, who does that?
Gasp.
And I was going home and just furiously Googling how to do my job till 2 a.m. every day.
Which is literally what everybody does. So it was cool, right? You were just normal at that point.
Just enough to get me through. And then, yeah, since there, the growth has been pretty meteoric. I worked for Clear Vision when they were doing really well. I worked for Adaptivist, like before they had 1,000 employees. So I take credit for all of these big companies' success, like absolutely. And then I started my own thing. I sort of put all the pieces together. I had a bunch of devs. I had a sales guy. I'd worked on sort of all the marketing things I think I needed to be a one-man marketing Swiss Army knife. And then we found a guy with a product idea. We put that all together and created Old Street Solutions, and just got massively
inspired by the street on which you were standing on.
You were sorry?
Inspired by the street on which you were standing on.
Yeah, we used to just walk past it, and it was one of that we were debating the name for the company for too long, and then eventually my co-founder just went, that like Americans like English things, we'll just name it after the street in London.
Nobody on this call is guilty of what you just said.
Yeah, you could have just called it Big Ben, and we would have just given you all of our money.
If it would have been called what? Big Ben?
Big Ben.
If it was Abbey Road, then yes, even more.
Could have made a movie after it.
Might have been harder to get on the first page of Google with either of those. So,
Abbey Road would have been up high.
I'm
so
curious,
sorry, go for it.
No, we don't have a script, and I always interrupt anyway. But
Please.
You got me thinking, right? With the whole, because now Abbey Road, Beatles, bands, right? So you put together a band, the kind of instruments, and the people you need to create a good band. So what are the good people to create those companies that you were talking about, right?
So, I mean, I have my own philosophy. I think it's funny. I think most people in this space these days are trying to create an orchestra, like 400 people plus. Like for me, right, I come from a punk background. You just need a good guitarist / lead singer, a good drummer, and the third person's kind of optional. Like maybe give him a bass guitar if you want to keep his hands busy, stop him from drinking.
White Stripes +1, right?
I guess I was the bass guitarist of the band.
But you are indeed a rapper.
I would not call myself that.
That was in your LinkedIn profile? It's still in there, no?
At one point when I was taking the piss, sure. This is the funny thing. Like we had meteoric success and ended up making a hip hop video because.
Why not?
What else do you do when you have too much money? And people have taken the whole wrong lesson from that and been like, oh, I get it. So if I want to have a successful marketing strategy, I need to make a hip hop video. And you're like, no.
I thought the whole secret to marketing was having
correlation, causation.
I was going to say, I thought the whole secret to marketing was be the purple cow.
Like honestly, we just tried everything, and people always ask what the silver bullet is, and it's like just try every damn freaking thing.
Piss off Easy BI while you're at it, but sure.
Again, like we did that because we're bored. Like, I don't think it necessarily helped our sales at all.
It wasn't even me. It wasn't even only me. Everybody was thinking it.
No, we can't, Rodney. I mean, it's really funny. I saw the Easy BI team in Barcelona, you know, and I can't speak for them, but I imagine some of them still hate me with a burning passion. But I'm just so indifferent because, like, custom charts is no longer mine. Right, like I'm just no longer in the reporting space. I just don't think about it. I sold my child, so I have no connection with it whatsoever anymore.
It's been what, a year and a half now? Almost 2 years.
Yeah, well, 2 years since I mentally checked out.
So, what was your thoughts when they changed the logo?
Again, surprised how little I cared. So yeah, it's sort of. You know, it's one of those things where you wake up one day and you're no longer thinking about your ex.
Except now your ex got a facelift.
It's good, man. It's healthy. And yeah, like I think when it happened, I got it. I understood. Like I like Tempo's rebrand. I think it's good. I think wish more vendors had this cohesive brand so that you understood this app and this app work together and they're made by the same people and they're for the same use case. So it just made sense. And you know, so often when you acquire all these companies, you end up with what looks like the lost property. Like, you know, all the bric-a-brac just left on a car boot sale table, like when you're, you know, selling to move house. And it just all looks random, different logos, different styles, different color schemes. So I was actually glad. And there was loads of arguments and loads of meetings. And I just went, yeah, whatever you guys decide, it's fine.
Speaking of logos, though, and loads of logos, what was the inspiration for you to put Atlassian's logo on your head?
Yeah, so for those that didn't see, in Barcelona, I dyed my hair. It was originally Atlassian blue, but the problem with dyeing your hair is it just quickly fades. So it soon became like Tiffany blue. It was, and I had an Atlassian logo in the back of my head. I don't know. You know,
purple cows.
I knew I was like looking for a new job, so I turned myself into a billboard. I feel like I didn't need to be any more attention seeking than I usually am at events, and it felt a little bit excessive.
6'7" doesn't give it away.
Looking at me, and I'd be like, "What are you looking at?" Oh, yeah, that's fair enough. Sorry. And then I went to because we're moving to Thailand, and I took my son to his new school, and I dyed my hair back because I want them to think I'm normal. And that actually, there was an awkward moment where my son turned to me and said in front of all the teachers, like, "Daddy, why isn't your hair blue anymore?" And I was like, "Daddy's pretending to be normal to impress your teachers."
Wait, so moving back to Thailand, you said?
Yeah, well, I grew up there. My family lived there from the age of 15. That's why I was a scuba diving instructor at 18. Like, so
or fisherman. Could have been either.
Could have.
How do I know I wasn't there?
Hunting the turtles, maybe be lying still.
Good to see my interviewer did his research with this first question. So. You were a fisherman in Mexico? No.
That's an island. I knew it had something to do with water. Okay, give me some credit.
You're like a reverse psychic there, Alex. Instead of like predicting his future in blurry terms, you're like,
watch. Chris is gonna retire as a fisherman one day.
I used to fish with my granddad, and then I tried it again a couple of years ago with my parents. Were sailing around New Zealand, and I was fishing off the back of the boat. And when I caught a fish, I just felt sorry for it. I was like, I'm gonna have to like gut and cook this. No. I just threw it back in the water, and I was like, I just don't have it in me anymore. I've grown soft.
Oh, sorry. So Sarah, to get you up to speed, in case you haven't caught up, Chris is like the first person that reached out to me when I started this whole YouTube journey. He was such the first person that I had to go and like triple check to make sure the validity of Chris, because I thought it was a phishing like scam.
Oh, this is why you think I'm a fisherman, fishing with a PH.
I will tell you why I think you're a fisherman in a second, but yeah. So one day it was like early in the morning. I get an email from some guy saying like, "Hey, we'd like to sponsor you for a video," and I'm like, I went and told my wife, I'm like, I got a weird email. Some guy.
Right. That was your reply, like, why?
I love it.
And the rest is history. The Jira Life, everything right now. Like, did you talk to your old boss? Have you seen the interview from your old boss?
Which one?
With Siebert?
No. When did you interview him?
He interviewed me at Team 24.
Oh yes. Yeah.
He's like, how did you get started? I'm like, I wouldn't have been here without Chris. So.
I'd like to apologize to the Atlassian community. I am so sorry.
It's all Chris's fault, right? Just right when I was about to give up and hang up my YouTube title, Chris comes out of the blue with this email. Saves it all.
Like it was easy to see you were making quality content and it was needed. Like it was as soon as you saw Monday Coffee from the Jexo team. Like it's that classic thing of the first phase of trying to find out how to do something in software space is to find the Indian YouTuber that's written a 2-hour tutorial.
So you went to the Mexican instead.
You're the second phase.
You're lucky you didn't stumble into my En Español Jira.
I've forgotten more languages than most English people learn. I used to speak pretty good Spanish.
So the fisherman story comes from there's a story about a fisherman in Mexico who's just living his best life fishing. I don't know if you've heard it.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so long story short, this like high executive from New York or whatever comes in, tries to come in to build this enterprise, very similar to the enterprise that Chris built, right? And the guy's like, what happens at the end when we sell everything and we do everything? He's like, well, that's the best part. You go get yourself a small little villa in an island and you fish for just yourself. And so that's why I'm like,
I'm already doing that. Why do I need
you're the fisherman, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the thing, is that I've taken a long, circuitous route just to come back to Thailand and chill out.
You could have just stayed there from
to someone, mostly my dad, that I could be successful. So I think someone said, I've won the game of capitalism now, check. Right, moving on. What's next? How do I make work-life balance and have time for my family and try and actually be happy, which is a thing I hear people are working on. Let me give that a go. We'll see.
Why do you want to keep re-entering the workforce, though?
Mm-hmm. That was where I wanted to know, too.
Have you ever seen an elephant in captivity? Me unemployed is not a good thing.
No.
I can survive about 4 days of a holiday, and then I'm like, I'm the guy lecturing the fisherman on how he should be sitting at his desk. or consulting for him and being like, oh, okay, here's your marketing strategy. Like a sheepdog. It's just my instinct to just work. So yeah, I need something. I do love that, exciting process of growing a business. Trust me, it's much more fun than a year of talking to lawyers and arguing with co-founders. So that growing a thing, I love helping underdogs like David beat Goliath. Like I love, working with smart people and just learning from them. And so like that's what I've been missing from the whole experience of selling my company, and then starting again. It's really cool now with CollabSoft because they've done very well despite never having tried marketing. And that used to be much more common in the Atlassian ecosystem. Dev co-founders who proudly had never done marketing and would declare that, it doesn't work and it's bullshit and there's no need for it. Since having grown the fastest growing apps, I've proved them wrong. But yeah, every so often you meet someone who has never tried it, but it's not because they hate it or don't believe in it. They just go, well, I don't know how to do marketing. But yeah, so I've got a completely white board, a green field to play in, a company that really has barely ever tried marketing.
And so they go with the biggest fish in the sea.
We'll see. I mean, I've learned the hard way that I would much rather, be a big fish in a small pond. And this is the problem for me coming from, having a scuba diving school in Thailand. At our biggest, I had like also an English language school, and that had like 20 staff. And that's the biggest company I ever want to run. And this is funny, when you sell like enterprise software, you pretend like, oh, we understand your challenges. I don't. The biggest company I've worked for most of my career is like 50 people maximum. And that's just the right fit for me. Is just a small company where I can know everyone and quickly get things done, move quickly, and have ideas and opinions, and try things out and get fast feedback. And I think my co-founder Tom once said, as the company, and our company grew to like 12 people when he was like, it's too much. He said, I used to feel like I was scoring goals, and now I feel like I'm designing a football stadium.
Well, there's a position for everyone.
Some people want to be architects of a football stadium, but scoring goals is fun.
Do you think the problems are the same? It's just a matter of the scale from small to big?
No, I don't at all. I think there's a few things here, but like a small team, a small company is just magic.
Oh, agreed. I could not agree with you more. I was wondering, if do the small teams have the same problems?
No, it's entirely different. And it's really interesting because I think the best co-founder to take a company from 0 to 1, right, is very rarely going to be the best co-founder to take a company from 1 to 10 people, take a company from 10 to 50 people, take a company from 50 to 100 people.
That's where they booted Steve Jobs.
They're all different people, right? But normally it's the same co-founder. They're rigidly stuck. I don't know. There needs to be some sort of timeshare where co-founders can like swap, trade in and out. Because
kind of what Google did, right? Like they had Larry Page and Sergey couldn't scale it. They got it from 0 to 1, but then they got what's his face, Eric, to come in, go from 1 to 1 billion, and then Larry's like, all right, I can take back over.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. So I enjoyed it because I was learning. Right, so my other co-founder was just like, I'm not enjoying this, I want off the ride. But I really enjoyed like the continuous learning, and it was great to learn, how to be good at marketing. But then you start hiring people, and they're like, "Cool, what's your process? Can you onboard me?" And I'm like, "There's not really a process. I just wake up and decide what I want to do that day, what feels good to me." Right? And so it was actually amazing working with the wonderful Theodora. And watching her create a proper marketing team with actual processes. That was a joy, just the experience of learning that.
She's now officially with Fun Man, right? Or Fun Inc.
I just presumed it was official. I don't know.
I think unofficially, officially, because they just made like a quick little announcement that she was like she was always behind the scenes the whole time.
I'm relieved to hear, because me and Andy are far too similar. In fact, now I'm no longer his boss. We've become much better friends. He said we were always friends, but I just felt awkward about it.
I just thought it was weird every time he called you Cookie.
He's friends with his team. They're like, yeah, cool, thanks.
I just loved it. The first time he called you Cookie, I was like, please tell me I haven't been messing it up this whole time.
Call me whatever you want. I've been called worse.
Because English is your second language there, so you're like, wait, is it Cooke or Cookie?
I always thought it was Cooke, but then he was like Cookie. I did also get to have lunch with Suze from also Fun Inc. And I didn't know until I was in the parking lot looking her up. I'm like, I've seen her somehow, all this related somewhere. Because I'm a scroller, right? I'm watching so many news and headlines and social media posts all day long. And I'm like, pretty sure. I was telling my wife as we parked to have lunch with her in Texas, I'm like, pretty sure her and Fun Man are related somehow.
Yeah, but Andy's related to a lot of people.
No, like related, so like business wise. And then I went and looked. I'm like, wait, they are. She is. And then it was so much fun to have lunch with her.
Well, fill me in. I don't know all the people yet. I still feel new to a lot of this. So Theodora is
Marketing. She was with Botron, and then they got acquired by Appfire. She's well known as like an Atlassian community leader in Bulgaria, and like me, she has a interesting non-tech background. I think one of her first jobs was a zookeeper.
Oh, nice.
We're getting closer to the animal.
Yeah, man. Us fishermen got to stick together.
Watch Chris start an entire campaign on like Fisherman Chris.
But she's
I
fascinating.
need to teach you how to catch your next app.
In some ways, she's like the opposite to me and Andy. We're these optimistic, extroverted, gregarious, people at the center of every party, and she's the Eeyore of the party to my Tigger.
Yeah, she's like a silent killer.
Deeply cynical. But we get along. She was the yin to my yang, and she's just a very, very sharp mind. She's cynical about the right things. She is a great writer as well, worth following on LinkedIn, and she's a phenomenal marketing leader. She did very well, sort of not only leading teams with heart and understanding them and getting the best out of them sustainably and in the long term, but she's also good at using like the Atlassian tools, which I guess people listening care about. So yeah, she was actually able to log into Confluence and Jira and use them effectively to manage work and collaborate. So that was nice. Which apparently is important to some people. I don't know.
and then there's the fun man, which you probably know him as Fun Man Andy.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite.
That one I'm more
the opposite of Andy Gladstone. Not that
yeah.
Andy.
Also fun, I'm sure, right?
Andy Gladstone and fun.
He literally just commented. Like he's one of the top fans. You're going to insult your audience here, Andy. I'm sure you're fun. We haven't hung out enough.
Yeah, Andy balances the force. There we go. I will go with that. I like Andy, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for Andy Gladstone.
Well recovered.
Not so much for Mr. Funman.
Wow, harsh.
He's too fun. It's too fun. I don't know. I look at Gladstone business. Fun man is fun. But it's in his name.
Andy's proving that business needs fun, and it's kind of true. If it's not fun, what's the point? We all spend too much time working, and yeah, like I think this is what I found, right? Competing with better funded people that have got 100 employees, 10 years head start on me. How does a small team of 4 people take on that Goliath? And fun was the key, because if you put passion at the heart of your work, if you actually love what you're doing, it's very hard for anyone to defeat that. Like if you wake up in the morning excited for work, you'll find a way. You'll make it work.
And then there's the rest of the crew, all identifiable by their bomber jackets that they would take to the conference. My favorite part was, so Team 23 was my first conference, right? And so you went to Team 23. So were you there for 23? Or you haven't been? You haven't been in a while, right?
I haven't been since 19.
Yeah, okay. So you gotta get
No, I'm gonna be like gonna be like the first time again.
So we roll into 23 and freaking Fun Man. I don't know if it was Fun Man or one of the other guys that was on your crew, but Vegas is freaking dry. And so Andy takes the bowl of Old Street Solutions or Custom Charged chapsticks and goes and stands like as the people are coming in or out of the keynote. And like they were just everywhere because they had like these flamboyant jackets that you could not miss them. And not besides the fact that they're all 10 feet tall.
Yes.
So, interestingly enough, handing out merch outside the keynote is against the rules. And I know because I intentionally study the rules every year to see which ones are worth breaking.
Where does calling the competition a dinosaur pond?
Well, is Anaheim's not as dry, or is it?
It'll be wet. It'll be wet.
All right. So chapstick won't be the prime giveaway there.
Deodorant. Here's my tip for branded giveaways, right? Deodorant. People at conferences need antiperspirant deodorant. Anyone that hands out that at a conference, not only will people gladly accept it and not throw your swag away, which is pretty important, but you'll be the hero of the conference. Never sponsor the conference Wi-Fi. That's a bad move, right?
Everybody hates you. Everybody hates you.
But if you make everyone at the conference smell a bit better, you will be the most popular sponsor of the conference.
You know what? Not to get you in trouble here, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, the only reason why I knew where you worked when you told me you worked is because your company sponsored the Wi-Fi 2 years ago, and it sucked.
No, I promise we never sponsored the Wi-Fi.
It sucked so much.
No, I've always known. I've always said, because we famously, we spent way too much money. That's a great tagline. See, Andy is fun.
I'm assuming the merch this year is going to be super interesting, because I'm assuming everybody's going to put Mickey Mouse ears on everything. But boy, did Disney, like, they're locked onto that IP, man. They don't mess around.
So I've had fun with Star Wars themed stuff, right? We came up with the Are You a Jira Jedi campaign.
Yeah, I remember that.
When I was at Clear Vision, that was wildly successful. But it got raised. It's like, what happens if Disney sue us? And I'm, working for small companies, always being a David versus Goliath, I'm quite familiar with the process, and all that happens is you get sent a cease and desist letter, and then you comply. So it's one of those like forgiveness is better than permission sort of things. And in fact, my first experience of this was my actual first attempt to make a company in the Atlassian space, was to borrow the consultants who were working at Clear Vision, fly them on a holiday to a European city, and do a training course that weekend. And this was our business that we came up with. And we registered the domain AtlassianWorldTour.com. And unfortunately for us, this was just as Atlassian had started their team tour thing. And so they saw this, and we got a letter from their lawyer. And as soon as I saw the letter, I was like, we're done.
Yeah.
And it just started with, right? While we appreciate your enthusiasm for the Atlassian brand. And as soon as I read that sentence, I was like, then we're done. And they just politely asked if we could please hand everything, the domain, the emails, over to them.
Do they not at least offer to pay out for it?
You what, sorry?
Do they at least offer a payment for it?
No, they offered kind words and a veiled threat. It was an iron fist and a velvet glove sort of thing. And I was just like, okay.
I'm coming up with cool stuff for Atlassian now.
I handed it over before I'd even consulted my co-founders on it, and they were like, "What did you do?" And I was like, "Guys, if you want to fight Atlassian's lawyers, good luck. But I'm not going to."
Reminds me of that scene from the Social Network when Mark Zuckerberg got that cease and desist letter, and his co-founder sees it. He's like, "What's this?" He's like, "Oh, it's just a letter." He's like, "What are you doing about it?" He's like, "I talked to the counselor, to the legal team at the university, and they're like, they told me to stop." And he's like, "What are you gonna do?" "Nothing. Keep going." So all you can do is keep going.
I mean, but very often these things are a paper tiger. But when it's interfering with an event they're promoting, and I always sail close to the wind. Like I'm known for that. I think the way I describe it is, if you're playing football, you should get a yellow card per match. Otherwise,
your football, okay. I was like, our football doesn't have yellow cards.
Whatever the equivalent is, right? If you don't foul once per game, are you even trying? And so you should be breaking some of the rules. Not enough for Atlassian, like, oh my god, but sound of the music style. How do we solve a problem like Maria? You should be the cute, cheeky nurse who all the convent are like, these guys, these scamps.
That's exactly where Rodney and I like to fly with respect to the Jira Life and everything we do on the internet. Just getting enough trouble from Atlassian that they still like us, but not enough that they boot us and ban us.
Alex, I think you rely on plausible deniability also.
I am a huge fan of plausible deniability, but I'm usually caught in the deniability.
There are some incredible stories. So, this is before my time in the Atlassian ecosystem, but one of the first big troublemakers in the Atlassian ecosystem she was breaking all kinds of rules and really upsetting the Atlassian themselves. And eventually, I think they had to kick her out. And she called in a bomb threat to Atlassian HQ. Yeah.
I thought that story was more going to end with, so eventually they had to hire her, right? Somehow do that, but no.
But I'd like to thank her because she makes people like me look like cheeky little scamps.
Oh, that Chris.
I'll do your job for you guys. Andy asked a really interesting question in the comments, which I'd like to answer. Did you guys see it?
Yes, I would like the answer too.
Do they involve dinosaurs?
So Andy's asking who I think partners in the ecosystem that are doing things well and growing their product the right way. It's an interesting question.
Let me answer it for you though, before you get too far.
Okay.
Revise. Our backup, our channel sponsor.
They are excelling, yes.
Okay, that's Alex's choice. I mean, they're sponsoring a good YouTube channel, so
you gotta sponsor folks in the Atlassian ecosystem.
Chris, are they not following in your footsteps of wanting to sponsor Alex? I mean, come on, right?
I mean, they do better than just follow me. There's a few companies I respect. I think it's tough because different people are good at different things. I do think there's a big misunderstanding about what is good marketing. And I've learned a lot from some of the best marketers in this space. Aren't me and Funman Andy shouting about ourselves all day long on LinkedIn. They're just quietly getting the work done. And I have this big theory. I hate that. Have you heard of the Pareto principle? Where 20% of your team get 80% of the results.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
I call bullshit on that, right? I would say that 20% of your team take credit for 80% of the results because they're shouting the loudest. But that happens because there's a bunch of people doing the quiet work in the background, not taking the credit. And so I would say the truly great people in the Atlassian ecosystem are some of the product marketing managers that are just slowly, incrementally making sure that every feature in their app shines and gets the attention it deserves. So much of the work of marketing these days is quiet back-end stuff. It's the partnership meetings that take far too many hours. It's building a presence so you get on the first page of Google. It's incremental, it's technical, it's thankless, it's not flashy, it's not shiny. It's
laborious.
Understanding your users. You what? Sorry.
Laborious.
For some of us, right? For these people, they love it, and it's what they do. They talk to customers, they care, they understand their end users, they understand the value. They're an intrinsic part of the product development, rather than the shouty social media influencer types. No offense, Alex.
Out.
So I actually think that people like me get far too much attention. And don't get me wrong, I think I'm pretty good at marketing, but not for the hip hop video and the dinosaur. In fact, every time we do that, I'd have a meeting with my team and be like, that was fun. Now we need to go back to work. And this thing, it makes a lot of noise, but I don't think it converts to actual benefit for the business often. And that's my fear. My legacy is that too many people will watch noisy, brash, loud, controversial Chris and take the wrong takeaway from that.
He's just a fisherman.
I think some of the best marketing people in this space are just quietly working in the background, good product managers. Not that I think, feature is everything. And I used to be so focused on conversion, rate optimization, the bottom of the funnel. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, and quick return on investment. And I think that was born of the fact that I was insecure, had imposter syndrome, out of my depth, right? Lied on my CV to get the job. And so was then desperately. And then when you have your own company, you're like, oh shit, we're going in debt. I need to make this work. So you can't spend money on a thing you're not sure will work. But having worked with experienced, calmer, wiser people in the ecosystem, I'm starting to appreciate that good marketing takes time and research and diligence, and it isn't just about throwing a dinosaur on stage and writing some rude posts on LinkedIn about your competitors.
But it helps.
Does it though? Like, that's not the takeaway, Alex. Like, it's fun. Don't get me wrong.
Are you the data marketer or the creative marketer? Because I feel like there's both, right, that are necessary.
You need both, right? Like, and I was both of those when I needed to be, and loved then when, as the company scaled and I was able to hire good people, learning from people I knew were smarter than me, and shutting up and getting those two to work together was a fun challenge. So I mean, this is it. Like, as fun as it is being the one-man band, right, with the cymbals on your elbows clashing together, and it's cool to be in a good band when you're all playing together and in sync and in harmony. So yeah, I think that's my main takeaway. I could call out some people, specifically Andy, and maybe that's what you want, but yeah, I think the best marketing teams are a few people, combination of the data and the creative, linked up well with the product. Yeah, working together without silos.
And knowing where the rules are.
You what, sorry?
And knowing where the rules are so you can bend the right one.
But again, like, this is fun. I tell it on, interviews like this. That's a funny story to tell. But yeah, as I say, like, I think the other thing is there are many roads to success. And this is the fun thing now. I'm at a stage of my career where I've worked for not half, but nearly half of the top Atlassian partners and vendors I have worked with in some capacity, right? And I've seen that they all have different theories and approaches, and they're all working. Now, there's a few ways of thinking of that. One of that is that it's just survivorship bias, right? And so they don't actually know how they're successful. Maybe they're just lucky. And you're just asking a bunch of different lottery winners, what's the key to picking right numbers in the lottery? And they can't tell you. But the other thing is there are just many paths, right? Like, one way to be successful is to get really close to Atlassian and have a really good relationship with Atlassian and work with them and make sure you're front of mind, not only in when you build solutions, but when their salespeople recommend solutions. Oh yeah, we've got a good relationship with that person. Another way is to just go, look, here's a bunch of rules Atlassian have written. They must be worth breaking, otherwise they wouldn't be rules in the guide. Let's do that, and let's be controversial and make some noise. Yeah, one way is to spend a lot of time with partner meetings. Another way is to declare it's a waste of time and just forge ahead, forge your own path, and be a leader rather than a follower. There are many routes to success.
My favorite is be the purple cow.
Be the purple cow. There you go. That's our second sponsor of the Jira Life is Purple Cows.
Hey, I happen to live in like dairy country, so there's a lot of cows around me. I wanted to ask you 3 things, Chris. Number 1, with your marrying background there, you make it really hard to. You got to always make sure you're fully clothed.
Yes, and I have had this problem actually this week. I was talking to I jumped on a call early morning with an SEO contractor, and then halfway through the call, I was wearing boxer shorts, thankfully, but could have been better. Could have been better. Couldn't make the best first impression with the new contractor.
I'm like, I can hide my blanket because it's cold, but you. That was question number 1, but that was a funny one. Question number 2. Now I've forgotten completely. Oh, the interview with Biro. That was one of the most dramatized. I can't even say the word dramatized.
Yeah.
Dramatic?
No, it was a dramatization. I feel because they. Okay. I don't know if you saw it, Sarah, but like the interview itself was deep. I think Chris was in a phase. I felt from the tone of his voice in a phase of like, I have no idea what I want to do, but I'm very frustrated that I want to do more, but don't know what to do yet. But I have a pile of cash and I got to figure something out. What I got out of the interview. But the way that Bureau like edited that like B-roll, that commercial in anticipation of it, it was like, and I said I would never sell.
Yeah, and then I stormed out of the interview and blah blah blah. Yeah. I mean, that's good. You need a hook, right? That's the subject line of your email.
Walk me through like what was like who came up with what? Like what was the brainchild? How did that whole thing come about?
I mean, yeah, Biro is very creative, and so I think most of it was him. But then also, I just naturally tempt myself to what's going to be the most controversial thing that's going to get some attention here. So
and bleep out a few words.
Yeah, sure. I think, every time I get interviewed, you guys promoting me, like I saw there was some juicy teaser that I might be revealing all about some of the people I've worked with in the past. So,
that wasn't me at all.
I'm sure. But there's always a bunch of like awkward CEOs, my former bosses, tuning in to be like, am I going to have to get my lawyers involved?
It's funny you bring that up. I was listening to somebody talk. I think it was Eric Schmidt from Google talk recently about goes back to the conversation of speed when you're a small team versus a big company, right? And Schmidt was basically saying like, hey, when you're a small team like Google was at the beginning stages, right? Like you can go and you can get away with breaking stuff, right? You can get away with taking the risks, being out there, being that purple cow, doing all the crazy things you got to do to survive in a marketplace. Because when you're Google today, you don't have that luxury because Google today has every idea that they have has to be vetted by lawyers. Versus when you're a small little team, then you're like, what's a lawyer? So it's funny this is like the 7th time you brought up lawyers in this conversation.
but that's the age tech is entering now. So tech used to be exciting and fun. And now it's a financial product.
It grew up, right?
A lot of people left, the banking sector and they're boring, well-paid jobs, doing outdated IT for a bank because they wanted to work in software. And they've been upset to find out that now, we are now working for a financial product. Like once the company you work for main goal is to increase share price, there's a lot of things they can't do. And most of those things are fun and interesting.
Alex, I want to ask a question.
Sorry.
Yeah, please. I know. I let you get through too, but damn it, I'm looking at the clock, man. I'm looking at the clock.
Go ahead. Next 15 minutes is all Sarah. I'm just gonna sit over here and.
I need to know, Chris. Have you failed?
Oh God, yeah. Oh.
Because, I mean, honestly, because like just sitting here thinking, like, okay, what can I glean from him, right? And I have all these things that I can take away, but I'm like, dude.
No,
when it didn't work.
I'm so sorry that that's your takeaway from me because that's not normally my first impression. I promise. I'm a massive bumbling cluster something, but almost every business I've had has been a dramatic failure. The one thing that worked was the scuba diving school, but that was shooting fish in a barrel. Right? It was right time, right place. So I was in
whatever happened to not hurting the turtles?
I was in an emerging part of Thailand with no competition. So there was a Novotel that had just been built, a Marriott that was being built, and I was the first tour company in the area. So the advantage I had there was huge. But then after that, I just had a series of failures. Every business failed, every business failed, every business failed. And I think that's part of why, like, I've become so resilient. It's just because I expect failure, I embrace it. I think it's the best way to learn. And so, I'm really sorry if your first impression of me, it was just me trying to quickly condense the last 15 years of my life. Right. I promise you I've had more misses than hits.
I mean, I love the rogueness, right? I was just curious, though. Yeah. Anyway, back to you, Alex. You can ask question number 3.
Oh, we're gonna go over to Andy here with the question. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So, any thoughts about why the partner ecosystem is so European and Asian centric, and why the North Americans are not represented? I think C Prime would beg to differ.
But that's one. I mean, that was my observation too. When you, even today, like I put a post, hey, I'm trying to get in all my sponsors in before the end of the year for next year. All my calls have been 4 or 5 in the morning because everybody's in Europe.
America starting. Welcome to the British feeling of being like, are we not number one anymore? Are we a declining empire?
You haven't been to Texas. Go to Texas.
I mean, is that how it feels for America? Do you think?
My observation was when I went to Team 23, then that when you walk around the expo floor of a team conference, there's a heavy European presence when it comes to the app makers and whatnot.
I mean, there's a few things that have gone on there. So I would argue that, like a lot of things, the American Solution Partner Network has gone through a string of acquisitions. Precipio, Coyote, a bunch have come together and been amalgamated. There's Release Team, who I can see in the comments, who are very good. So there are definitely American partners.
No, I mean, I don't know that the argument is there's not American ones, but the scales tip towards European.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, I was so surprised too, right? Because especially when you look at Silicon Valley, big tech, right? That is a very California. That's not even a US thing, right? That is a very California thing. And then I was honestly shocked when I went into the Atlassian ecosystem. I'm like, wait, you all aren't based out of San Francisco? Like, what the heck?
Well, do you think it's like, the costs to start up in those countries versus the costs here? And
it's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm not an expert on it. I'd say a few things. One, if you look at like Adaptivist, maybe that we present as the European, British, but if you meet the Adaptivist American team, those are full of great senior American people who probably wouldn't consider themselves Brits. I think Matt Doyle's right. American consultants aren't cheap, and more. I think American consultants might be being brought towards more lucrative areas, right? Like I think some of the in America there's these big magnets. I can't speak because I've not been an American consultant, but I suspect that perhaps some of the big consultants who could work in the Atlassian space and end up finding they're making more money working in, I don't know what, answer in the comments, but maybe there's something there. But I would say that as well, like, if you talk to Valiantis, Adaptivist, they have big American offices which are a force unto themselves, and although the founders of that company may have started in Europe, there's definitely an American presence there and an American branch to that company. And that's very often what happens is that, in Europe, you'll start a small little company. And then as you start going abroad, you set up satellite companies. And often, I'm sure the satellite company outgrows the company back home. So maybe like it's perceived as European. I do know comments and
I know that when I talked to Siebert this summer, I did the interview with him, and then immediately after I did an interview with Visor's CEO Mike Yaroshevsky. I think I almost had his last name correctly. And it was an interesting thing, right? I mean, from a CEO perspective, I thought they were both very valuable. But when my wife edited both of them, she could tell. She was like, on the Siebert side, she was like, wow, these German people like to work. Like, they like their work. They like where they work. And I think that's a different cultural thing too, because like I haven't met an American that likes where they work.
So I was talking about the differences between the company 1 to 10 and 10 to 100, and I think stereotypically the Germans are very good at that kind of like 100 and above when it becomes like an operations exercise, being very organized and putting everything in order. And a bunch of my British friends, we met up. We were all co-founders of businesses, and then we met last year, and we'd all sold. And it turned out we'd all sold to German companies because they look at the chaos and dinosaurs on stage and go, "You guys, maybe you could calm down, be a bit more organized, get your ducks in a row."
Really squish out those profits.
No, I wouldn't even say that. In fact, I found, I can't speak for Germany's a huge country and it's hard to generalize. But my experience of German co-founders is that they're not greedy or money first. They do like looking after people, and they have this long-term vision, like because that's where they win. It's patience. It's if they can improve 1% every month, then that compound interest will pay off, and that's often how they see the world, I'd say. And again, America's a huge country to generalize, but it's so interesting as an entrepreneur, especially one that's recently exited for lots of money. You meet other people, and the American
Small little
attitude
flex, nothing
is
serious.
incredible. They're like, oh, if it's not going to make $1 million, what's the point, right? $1 billion, what's the point? And you're like, I don't know, man. Like, it's nice just having a company, and a few $1 million is lovely.
I heard you bought a villa.
I bought a beach house, in Thailand.
How's that? Is that where you're at now? Is that what you
No, I'm moving back to Thailand after Christmas. I'll do one more Christmas with the rents. But we should host the Jira Life from my beach house in Thailand.
Physically, we'll go. I have a passport now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The 7 Seas are now my new horizons.
I didn't know it made its way back to you already. Yeah?
Which part? The
passport. You're in physical possession of it?
Yeah, I had like in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Along with all my other paperwork that I never thought I was going to get back, like my birth certificate. I didn't have a whole lot of trust in our postal system. But anyways, we're down to the last few minutes. Sarah.
Yeah.
Knock your socks off. You got Big Chris.
See, I'm much better when you don't put me on the spot. So you know what I did? I went out and I looked up the 5 questions to ask somebody on a first date. So since I'm getting to know Chris.
Chris is a married man. Let me just start there.
But I thought this was kind of an interesting way to take this. And so it's the one that I think would work. The best advice you ever received, Chris. Right? So if people are going to come to you for it, what are you regurgitating?
I don't know if this is good advice for everyone, but it changed my life. Could I go a few things? This is going to get me excited. The best advice personally for me was sometimes saying nothing and doing nothing is the right thing to do. And as obvious as that will feel to the introverts in the room, like I had to hard learn that lesson. And that I was just used to being the master of my own destiny. Whatever came my way, okay, I'm going to talk my way out of it. And sometimes the best move is just shut up and wait. But no, I've heard all sorts of inspiring things recently. They just sound so cliche. This is the problem. Influencers have ruined it for us all because you try and say something heartfelt. Like I've started working with CollabSoft, and Remy is genuinely a lovely guy. And he makes, like me, such a weird first impression because you see him online trolling someone being controversial. And I was talking about like how hard it is for people who are genuine and their heart's in the right place. But those people don't always like present that way because it's kind of awkward. If someone has to tell you they're a nice guy, that's red flags, right? So very often, like the best people, the diamonds in the rough, make a weird first impression. But so much of what he says, like he doesn't want to share because it's become cringe and cliche because these fake influencers are.
Hey, we can call him fake, man. We're purple cows over here.
And this is it. Like, so he's just so genuine and so real. He's all about work-life balance. He couldn't care about work really. Like he's like, work, it always takes too much of your life. Family should always come first, right? He's like, I work maximum 25 hours a week. I think any more than that is ridiculous and unnecessary. Everyone's talking.
I get you fired over here, by the way.
What, sir?
That gets you fired in the U.S. That was, what was it? Starbucks CEO, right? He was like, "Hey, don't send me emails after 5 p.m. I'm not going to answer them until the next day." It's like 2 weeks later, he got shown out the door, and they brought in a guy that works like forever.
The worst people I've ever worked with are inevitably overworking, and they're tired, and they're stressed, and they don't handle things well, and they don't come up with creative, bright ideas because they're burnt out, and they're perpetually burnt out. They're so burnt out they don't know what it feels like to not be burnt out. And so, yeah, like Atlassian did this, what would you do with extra 2 hours of productivity, like campaign? And he's like, why would you be more productive at work?
I'd just
Like,
go fishing.
make your boss a bit richer? Forget it. Don't bother. And I think it's so beautiful there. It's like, go home, spend more time with your family, like be happy, like
bring your kids to Disneyland is what you're gonna have to do.
Let's go to Disneyland. Let's have a taco with Alex. Like, and I do find this, like, I see so many people at events like Team 25 chained to a booth, desperately trying to scan a few more leads with commission breath. And I'm like, guys, all the big enterprise customers aren't walking the floor anymore. You know why? Because they're at the bar with me, just hanging out, having fun. Because
that's after party.
Yeah, the after party, like that. And that
Chris, I am never gonna forget. I am never gonna forget what you put me through that day.
By put you through, you mean like tried to help your business by introducing you to
No. This was nothing business related. So Sarah, Team 23, Chris comes in with his hat. I think it was it a pink cowgirl hat?
Sounds about right.
It sounds
Oh.
He gives me this hat and he's like, if you see Becky, by the way, how is Becky? I haven't seen Becky in a while. She's been quiet.
Okay, I'm going to say probably the most controversial thing, but one of the silliest things Tempo have done has been to put Becky in the basement. She's now doing IT support, and I'm like, Becky should be on stage giving demos. Why have you locked her away in a basement with the IT trolls?
But anyways, Becky, lovely woman, lovely lady. And Chris is like, if you see her, can you give this to her? So I'm outside the bash party, scanning every individual that's walking in and out of this ginormous hall. And after like an hour, I'm like, I give up. I'm just gonna go inside. Freaking Becky's been inside with Chris for like the last hour and a half. And I'm out there just waiting for Becky.
So I think I just found Chris's really good advice, right? Like if you need somebody just to move on for an hour, give them a big pink hat.
Yeah, give something some busy work
shell
for an hour and they'll leave you alone.
That was genuinely me giving you like a tool to network and be able to like just walk around approaching people and say, hey, is this your hat? But
I know. I literally started like, have you seen Becky?
See, it worked.
Yeah, like
it was never about Becky or Alex.
Like, because I had taken a picture of Becky at the booth. I'm like, have you seen this girl?
Oh my god, that's amazing.
The real Beckys are the friends you talk to along the way.
Oh, and then my closing statement here, Chris. I will tell you at Team 24, if you know those like clouds that people put of like words that pop up a lot, and then you get the biggest word in the middle. Where's Chris? Was right in the middle.
Man, I'm again, work-life balance. I'm glad I didn't go. Like after
you're off fishing.
2 years of selling my company and all the stress and work that was, I couldn't justify it. I didn't need to go. It wasn't a priority. It was time with my family. And my wife said, if you really need to go, you can. And I was like, I don't. So I didn't. I'll be at the next one. Like I think these Atlassian events are great. And I'm happy to support. Now it's back in California. I think that'll be really exciting. I think there's a lot of people who can't get permission to go to Vegas from their boss and or wife. So
yeah, so Disneyland,
people in California.
Yeah, so Disneyland's going to be way better, much an easier sell. Come before. We are going to have an unofficial barbecue at my house. I think either Saturday or Sunday before team.
I'd love that. Thank you very much for the invite.
Yep. That's why I'm trying to get Sarah out here too, but on time. But come out before. You got a house with me, and let me know. You
guys, I wanted to talk about Forge, and you just made it all about.
Oh, was that on the script?
Is it my
yes. Talk about Forge. We're only 3 minutes over. Let's go.
It's like 10 p.m. for him.
11 p.m. actually. Yeah.
11. Okay. Well, we started at 10. All right. Well, without Rodney here to sign us off, Sarah, the first to you.
Me? Am I doing the sign off line? I feel a lot of pressure. I don't want to get it wrong. But
That's why I don't do it.
I'm supposed to tell everybody to remember that we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.
True story.
Thank you for listening to the Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira Guy, Nissen. You can find Alex on YouTube at 8Tech Tutorials, and Rodney's blog is found over at thejiraguy.com. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lina Ortiz. You can catch us live as we record this podcast every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and our other Jira Amigos of the Peanut Gallery every week to ask your questions, let us know your comments, and just tell us what you're up to. But if you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay over on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. We're also available as a podcast over on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you listen to it and think it deserves a rating, we would very much appreciate it, as it will help others discover the Jira Life. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.